Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I'm very bullish on Mara. I'm very bullish on Btbt. I guess I've been bullish on both for a long time now, and there's a lot of doubt in terms of why I'm still bullish on these things. That's done absolutely nothing for closer to 2 years. This is the monthly chart of Mara. I'm pulling at the Bollinger Band here. It just got rejected here off the 20-month moving average. That's a shame, right? They diluted yet again. How shameful. They've also got rejected off the Tenkin and Kitchen here on the Ichimoku cloud here on the monthly. How shameful, right? Dilution, dilution, dilution. This is terrible. Well, let's look at it a little bit in a different kind of way here. But I'm going to pull back the Bollinger Band out here. Only in a 2 month here. You see a little bit of a different picture here. What you're seeing is that price has consolidated sideways over here for more about 20 months, actually 40 months now. It's been doing absolutely nothing here. And because it's been doing nothing, Bollinger Band, you don't have the volatility to really expand Bollinger Band. And what you end up getting is a Bollinger Band contraction that tells you that, hey, maybe a bigger move is to come soon. And you also reclaim the 40-month moving average. Now, you look at a little bit closer on the weekly here. I did see a few things here that was pretty bullish. Now, looking at this, you do have a little bit of a bearish formation here. This is called an evening star. Sometimes when you see something like that, it does maybe tend to favor some bearish continuation. Here you have an evening star here. It didn't really work out that much. I mean, they did go down a little bit, but it wasn't that bad, so it doesn't necessarily have to play out. But that's a little bit of a bearish formation here. Now, with that said, I said so many things are, leaning bearish here. Why am I extremely bullish here on Mara? Well, first of all, it's holding the Ichimoku Tenkin, the blue line over here, on the weekly. Second of all, I've never really seen this, but if you look at all the weekly moving averages, and I got these different color codes here. I got the orange here as the 20-week moving average. I got the light blue over here as the 50-week moving average. The purple here is the 100-week moving average, and the black here is 200-week moving average. You can see that all kind of bundling all together, all about to have more, a little bit of a bullish cross here relatively soon. And Mara broke out of this range of resistance here and simply is back testing the area. And so far it's holding pretty well. I've never really seen it bunched up together like this, where 50, 100, and 200 just bunch up together. Throughout the history of Mara, I was dating all the way back over to the beginning of existence, even before it became a miner. I've never really seen this kind of convergence of the 50, 100, and 200. I've never seen that. And we just spent the last couple of weeks really breaking above it, and right now we're back testing area. Together with the fact that we are also back testing the weekly Tenkin there, right? A lot of confluence here at the zone. Now, I'm also going to pull up something else here. I'm going to pull up the cycle top and the cycle bottom. Cycle top, you're really talking about maybe around November 2021. Cycle bottom, you're talking about maybe December 2022. You have something called the volume weighted, or anchored volume weighted average price, right? Anchored volume weighted average price. Some people call it AVVOP, if you really want to go short. I made that here. I'm going to just go ahead and show it. You can see that, this basically tells you the average price of holders that they have bought ever since the cycle top and the cycle bottom. And guess what we are at right now? We are at the zone where we are just bouncing right off it. We flipped this from resistance over here into support. Together with, and I'm just going to show you the confluent zone here of support, right? Together with the 50-week moving average, 100-week moving average, 200-week moving average, the VWAP from all-time high, VWAP from all-time, not all-time high, cycle low, together with the Ichimoku Tenkin here. You see all this support down here that it decided to backtest just now. I am thinking that this could be it. I'm thinking this could be the confluent zone where Mara might decide to really try to have some breakout here. I'm pretty bullish in terms of where it is right now. Even just looking at the horizontal zone over here, we broke above this horizontal zone where we got rejected over here. It was just simply doing a little bit of a back test. There is a lot of things to be excited about Mara, just looking at this particular chart. Now, another chart I'm also bullish on is not as confluent, it's not as converging as Mara, but you still got some pretty decent things to look at here. Now, Btbt, if you look at the monthly again, it's not the greatest look. Is again, it did break over the 20-month moving average, but got rejected here at Upper Bollinger Band. It's just range bound. You look at the Ichimoku, Tenkan, and Kijun on the monthly, it just got rejected so far. So on the monthly here, there's not much to really cheer, right? Now on the 2-month chart here, I did see a little bit of Bollinger Band contraction. The 40-month moving average is being reclaimed, so maybe a bigger move is to come. But if you look at the weekly here, this is when it is really starting to show some pretty interesting thing. Well, you do have a gap close potentially. It doesn't have to. Not all gaps have to close, but the gap would be closed if price dropped down to $2.94. And on top of that, if you're looking at the weekly moving average, you can also see they're kind of staggered all together too. The 50 has crossed over to 200, and it just back tested the 50 here. It held 50 here relatively well. 200 is right underneath of it. 100-week moving average is right underneath of that too. A pretty strong area of support zone, right? Now, on top of all that, I'm just going to zoom back out here, turning off the weekly moving averages, and I did do a anchored volume weighted average price from the cycle low. What you're going to see here is that we're also bouncing perfectly right off of that right now, which is pretty amazing. You're talking about all these different confluence of support. On top of that, you are also holding the Ichimoku Tenkan and the Ichimoku Kijun as well. This is a breakout and a backtest of that area over there. Does it have to come back and close the gap here to $2.94? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Sometimes these really volatile stocks can leave weekly gaps open and they don't have to close them, and that doesn't really bother me all that much. With that said, I cannot ignore the confluence zone of support with the 50, 200, Ichimoku Tenkan, Ichimoku Kijun, and the anchored volume weighted average price, all right there as support, where we had a big gap up to break through all these resistance, and now we're basically testing all those things as support. So I'm not bearish on this. No, I'm pretty bullish. I have a big enough position of Mara for my comfort zone already. I'm not going to add to Mara, but I think I'm going to end up adding to Btbt, especially right around the area where it's at right now. It's looking pretty decent. Just to show you how some of these indicators may have worked before, so that we're not just talking about voodoo here. This is Coinbase weekly chart. Now, on the Coinbase weekly chart, I'm just going to do this thing over here, and this is the anchored volume, weighted average price. I'm just going to do it from the previous all-time high here at the IPO, and you can see that whenever Coinbase decides to touch the area, right there is when it decides to kind of pump up a lot higher from there, right? So that is another clue in terms of what we're seeing here, and that could lead to a pretty big move moving forward. This is Cypher. Cypher is having a little hard time breaking about the 0.76, but that's not what I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you the average or the anchored volume weighted average price from the cycle high over here and the cycle low down here. What you're seeing, basically they're converging. And what you're seeing here was that about 6-7 weeks ago, we had a hard time breaking through that. And next thing you know, we had a breakout, and that breakout turned into something beautiful where it eventually hit the 0.786 after you break out from this volume weighted average price. You can see how it's been serving as some pretty decent support on the way over here. And right now we broke through, and right now things looks like they want to go higher because of it. Just to kind of give you a little bit of an example over here in terms of what I'm looking at. With that said, if you're talking about potential targets here, now I'm going to go ahead and delete these VWAPs over here. But if you're looking at potential targets here, I do think that Mara needs to break above the 0.618 here. If it's able to close the month above the 0.5, that's progress because we got rejected here over the last 2 months. If it's able to close about 0.5, then we gravitate to the 0.618. If we break the 0.618, then 0.786 is going to be the area here where we hit. Now, interestingly, it's also right at the top of the monthly Ichimoku cloud. So that's going to be a pretty strong resistance here. And we'll see how it reacts when it gets there. But it has a lot of these different resistances to push through before it gets there. I think it will push through based on what I just showed you on a weekly chart. But when we get to 0.786 at $41.28, depends on how it reacts there. If we end up pushing through, then some of the higher targets are possible. If we end up not pushing through, then that could be the cycle high, and that could be the end of the cycle. Okay. Btbt is a crazy chart because the FIB levels can look insane. From the cycle top to the cycle bottom over here, we are having a hard time breaking about the 0.5. I do think we probably end up gravitating up here to 0.618 sooner rather than later. And once we get there, that's a pretty strong resistance zone. If we push through, and if we push to 0.786, top of the cloud, 0.86, and some higher triple digit targets up here is possible, but you can see how much resistance you have here, right? 6.8, 11.63, the top Ichimoku cloud here around 16.64, and then 0.86, $20.61. These areas up here could potentially be the cycle ending top right here. If it decides to push through, then some crazy targets above is possible, but let's not get there. Let's just do one level here at a time and see how Btbt reacts. I do think that probably going to end up hitting at least a 0.76 here. This cycle is kind of where I'm looking at, so I'm keep on adding here to Btbt and see how it goes. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. Bye.